Ashling's Holistic Health Show. I'm Aisling Fitzgibbon, holistic nutrition coach and occupational therapist. This show brings you the best tools and ideas for you to take your health into your own hands, your true place of power. So thank you very much, Kathleen, for connecting firstly and for agreeing to come on my podcast. So you are coming all the way from Donegal today. Your name, Kathleen, it's O'Hara Farren, isn't it? Your double barrel name.
That's right. When the children came, I added the Farren.
You added on, yeah. So you're a mother of 3. So is it boys or girls? What do you have?
My first was a boy and then 2 girls. Mm-hmm. And that was all 2.5 years between each of them. And I had my kids when I was 36 and all the way to 42 years old.
Brilliant.
Now they're almost they're so grown up. So it's 8 years since I had a baby.
Yeah, lovely. So you just reached out because I've been sharing a lot about working with women, preparing them for birth and preconceptual care using nutrition. But also what's come up for me working with women is this conversation around preparing themselves for the birth, because there's a lot of fear around that. And I think not that much information about how to do it in a different way, whether you're choosing a hospital birth or a home birth. You know, it's a whole new kind of conscious way of entering into the birthing process. So I'd love to hear from you as a mother of 3. Obviously, you have 3 different experiences with that. And if you could just share, like, what kind of wisdom you'd like to pass on to women who are entering into, you know, getting ready to have their birth and preparing themselves so that they're in the best state of mind and in their body for them to have a successful birth.
Oh, I'd love to, because I would have loved it myself, and I couldn't actually find it either too easily. So I had briefly, I'll give you a sort of a summary, and then I'd love to give you some highlights and some really helpful things that were helpful to me. Mm-hmm. And I'm simply a mum who has had 3 children and realized I was following my heart the whole time, even though it didn't feel like it. So I'm not a professional. However, I had 3 children, all in Donegal, and one was a home birth. So the middle one was a home birth. Mm-hmm. The first one was a hospital birth, and the last one was another hospital birth. But I had an attitude that my body is my home. So wherever the baby was born, I was at home. So that was really, and how I arrived to that, I'd love to share as well.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear that.
So like, if I could say anything to the women who are pregnant now or are preparing like yourself, you're doing a really good job. Amazing to be watching your process online with such care. And ultimately, that's really, really important, self-care. And that's something that we may not be too familiar with, even though we think we are, because we look after our external self, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So ultimately, it's the internal self that you just have to give so much love to. And that to me was hard, because I don't think I really knew what that was. Mm-hmm. So what you do is you keep going back to beautiful words, and you fill yourself with those words. You know, you tell yourself that this is a loving thing. It's created with love. Love will carry you through everything. Mm-hmm. So whatever it means to you to ensure that you are in a really good state inside, it might be through food, physically looking after yourself, or through attitude, or through some exercises. But please don't give yourself a hard time. And somehow you will find the people, because what actually did happen to me was that I stopped feeling so alone, and I realized there is support coming from everywhere. Mm-hmm. Because before you're pregnant, you think you're in control, and it really looks like it. You know, you can decide what to do, and you can decide what happens. Mm-hmm. And then when you're pregnant, there's more than you, but also you realize there's more than you. It's not just you and the baby, but there's these miracles start to happen. And I wouldn't use that word lightly, but that's what I realized when the first baby, when I was pregnant, we were kind of not married, and and this whole series of events happened. It looked like I was being evicted. It looked like we had nowhere to live. It was all hard, but ultimately I wanted to be in a non-stressful place, and opportunities arose that I would never have planned, and those gave rise to even better things, which has me now in this lovely house that I'm living in 14 years later. So there's a shift in how you live. You kind of go, okay, I'm not in control, but I am in control of me.
Yeah.
That's the wonderful thing that happens to the woman. We finally go, this is my job. This is mine to do. And I'm going to do it with respect. And I'm going to do it as best I can. And even though, like happened to me, I had my first birth, I had a beautiful birth plan. I had rainbow colors, and I insisted, because they wouldn't give us a home birth, I insisted that it would be my way. And I did my best to do my research, but I wish I talked to people who had healthy birth experiences.
Yeah.
Because they were hard to find, but maybe you'll find them by going to your local La Leche meetings, these breastfeeding support groups that are run by the La Leche League. They're really into natural kind of, if it's natural birth that you're interested in, seek out women who've had natural births. They love talking about it. They're not really asked.
Yeah.
So, because it did get to a really difficult time on my first birth, and I did say, drop everything, I'm going for intervention, the most intense intervention you can give me. Well, and the doctor said, I think you can do this. I didn't even speak to a doctor. But what I realized was that they do read your birth plan in the hospital. They do. So write everything on your birth plan, and then practice saying with strength, have you seen my birth plan? That my job is to be in my cave. My job is to, like, this is the moment that I'm going to try all those techniques. I found my best techniques through spiritual midwifery from she's just brilliant, the author. I'll think of her now. She runs the farm in Tennessee. Ina May Gaskin. She was brilliant. Ina May Gaskin has 2 books, and they're both full of stories of women who've had natural births.
That's good.
Right? So leading up to the birth, you just do what you can. The first 3 months, your body's totally, there's 3 stages, So the first stage is, oh my God, I'm pregnant. This is different. And the middle stage is quite physically comfortable. You're in your stride. The final stage is like, I'm massive, and there's no going back.
Yeah.
So whatever happens, don't give yourself a hard time. The second birth, so the first birth was, I sort of fixated on something. I fixated on an object because I heard that if you just stay focused. But ultimately, the more you are in sync with your hips, and kind of, if you've done loads of little dances and movements with your body, and hung out by the ocean or by the river, and just, you do get wild, you do get sort of tribal woman, at least I did. Yeah. And I feel like they know best, don't they? The tribal, the women who hang out of the tree branches. There's apparently, like, all the orifices have to be open. And so if the only thing that can be tight are your hands, your arms, So there's these tips you pick up. Ina May Gaskin, again, is great. She probably has some really good videos as well. So yeah, if you can be in wild places, your wild self,
Yeah.
We're not used to that because we're women of the world. We've done all sorts of academic things, and we're capable of so much. And it's the birth thing that shows that you're capable of so much. I mean, it's a cosmic connection, the moment of birth. It's just like everything's amazing. And it's labor.
Yeah.
It is labor. It's work.
I heard recently by she's a holistic psychiatrist that I follow her work, Kelly Brogan, her name is. She's based in America, and she has had 2 births, one hospital and one home birth. And she was describing in her experience of her home birth that she felt like the birthing of a baby is a woman's initiation. That it's a huge spiritual experience when you actually surrender into that kind of perspective.
It is amazing. And if you can get a home birth, if you're interested in it, the first is nice to have the first as a home birth. I think in Ireland, if you're there's a certain age they call you an older mother, and I think that's 35. So if you're under 35 and you can get a home birth and you want to, well, enjoy it. And if you have to have a hospital birth because of circumstances, or you're just not sure and you'd rather be sure, then be at home in your body. Yeah. Be at home with yourself. Listen to who you want to hear. So seek them out, because lots of people give you all sorts of tips that you really don't want to hear. You are in a sacred place. Like the woman who is pregnant deserves such respect from society, and we don't give it. So you must give it to yourself, and you seek out those women who will give it to you. There's more and more women like that. So beauty, love, respect, and strength and wildness are the words that are coming to me. So the second birth that I had was a home birth, because the hospital provided it. Up here they don't anymore. Cut that out because they don't see it as a economically possible.
Okay.
So the midwives came for the birth. So it's interesting. I'm wanting to talk about the birth because you do just get on with it when you're pregnant. Really. Obviously 9 months is relevant because there's such a shift in your who am I. But you attracted this beautiful being into your body, so you can attract all the other beautiful things that you need. And if it's not beautiful, it's okay. You still have the strength.
Yeah.
And like I did go through stages where I just gave up. Your partner, if your partner can be there, or someone who's supporting you, just ensure that they know this is my plan B, and but ultimately it is a very spiritual experience, but you don't know that. It's just it's a whole body, mind, spirit experience. I can only say that some people will be good at giving you tips about how to keep your everything up, your physical and all that. But one thing I did was I ensured that they didn't inject me or the baby with anything. I made sure that my vitamin K intake was best met through the food I was eating or nibbling on. And then lots of hip dancing, lots of sort of moving like that. And it's kind of like the more relaxed you are, which is where the hypnotherapy thing, really, that's just nice, really nice music. Probably the notes or the probably are real earthy keys that really have you grounded. And also there's a code which kind of is connected to your chakras. But really, if you find there's 2 voices on the hypnotherapy or hypnobirthing, which I avoided at the start. I thought, I don't need that. But when I got it for the third baby, for the third pregnancy period, it was lovely.
Really,
it was just someone saying, you are going to take an hour or 15 minutes where you check in, you do a little check in with everywhere in your body, and the baby knows it too. Something you can do while you're pregnant is find the song of the baby by going to a cool place that you love in nature, probably, or just anywhere, and just Sing a song to yourself, and maybe you'll find that that song keeps occurring. And sound is really magical, and that is one sure way you are already connected. So what else? I mean, when I was pregnant the second 2 times, I met 2 amazing women who were like counselors to me, or coaches, and they were trained as coaches. One of them did a sort of a relax and imagine there's an angel who's caring about this birth, and then connect with that. And the baby was born in the same room as we did those meditations. So, and so is the woman. She arrived, and she's now my daughter's not guardian angel, but godmother. So, and the second person who helped me for my last birth, the baby, was a coach who luckily was offering introductory prices, which I could afford. And we turned out to have some really good classes or sessions where I learned a process. She held my hand and she said, okay, what do you want? I said, I want a home birth, but they're not giving it to me because I'm older, but mostly they can't afford it at the hospital.
Yeah.
So she helped me write a letter to the head of the hospital department of maternity, and let her know that I really want it. I'm well able for it. And basically, through the whole 9 months, I arrived at, no, you're not getting it, but I will be at home in my body. And basically, I not convinced myself, I spoke to myself in a way with an authority that I hadn't had before I was a mum.
Okay.
So you are going through all these changes, but they're all gifts for you. They were gifts for me, and having Kate there was a gift. So much so, it was empowerment. I felt empowered. So when it came to the actual birth, I did phone the independent midwife who was 3 hours away. I said, look, it's happening. I believe this is it, because by the 3rd time round, you know that what it's like to be in labor. It's like, for me, it was dreamy. I was going into a real dreamy space. But also physical stuff is happening in the belly. And she said, I can't make it. And I said, well, do you know what? That's fine. And I had already learned to be so relaxed that I wasn't going to get into a tizzy. If I felt a tizzy coming, I would just sort of center and ground myself through whatever practice I could pull up at the time. And so I said, well, that's it. We'll find someone to mind the children and hop in the car. By this stage, my head, I know that my head can get too busy most of the time. But the 3rd time round, I realized I really have to hand over and trust. So I put the headphones on, got the hot water bottle, hopped into the back of the car, and got a lift, which was an hour's journey to the hospital. I kept myself in my bubble in the hospital. I kind of imagined a white light all around me so that I wouldn't pick up anything because there was some awful thing going on in the hospital that I didn't want to be part of. And I also, I had written a really nice birth plan, and I'd said things like, no electricity around me, no negative language around me, no checking me, monitoring me, hooking me up. Just want to go straight to a room, it's just us. Because I'd read this thing about a cave. You know, it's just you're in a cave, very bright lights. And if you do have all that, then you just create it in your wonderful imagination. You just imagine. This is the way it is. So when they said, just come into this room, and they're all nice people, but they're institutionalized, blessed. We're all institutionalized, and we're also all wild. So it's just a matter of where we're at. So I said, did you read my birth plan? And she said, oh, just a minute. Went off, read it, and then brought me to a kind of private room. And the headphones came off, and I kind of went, okay, I'll get ready for maybe a bath. We've got some nice paraphernalia from the house to make it look like it's a house. But really, I was so kind of strong in myself by then. It didn't matter what was going on the outside, on the outside. And each baby comes with their own plan as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, who are we to intrude with their plan? And it's very starts to get, you know, but amazing things happen when the birth happens. And it's just like, I'm never going to let this child have any, you know, all these really, really nurturing things happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think the best thing I could say now as someone who's looking back is nurture yourself. You are the carer of you, and what happens in you is well, it's yours to care for. But unless you know how to look after yourself, it's kind of hard to know how to look after others, even though it's instinctive with the child. So basically, your own instinct is what you need to get in touch with as a person preparing, a mom preparing, a woman preparing to be a mom.
That's brilliant. Great advice. That's sound a bit of feedback there. I know that's fantastic advice, because that's not commonly spoken about. I've never heard people, you know, in general say that. That's not really the stories that are passed through, say, in my family. It's that concept isn't really brought up in conversation, so it's really good to highlight that.
Well, I've had the luxury of kind of studying heart communication, and I can't say I'm a master at it or anything, but well, the more you evolve and the more you mature, you go, oh wow, this is great. I'm glad I know this now, and you can't look back with regret. But yeah, it's a nice place to be, and your heart is such a connection to the baby. Bum, 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 you know,
Yeah.
it's a call. And then giving birth, there's the more able you are to be on all levels of yourself, you know, like listen to the voice of the child. You don't know if that's the voice of the child saying, I want my name to be whatever.
Yeah.
Or but as your relationship continues over the years, you kind of reflect and go, everything was and is as it's kind of meant to be. What I need to be is 100% myself.
Yeah.
And that is a recent discovery only that I'm coming across. How to pull myself together, not to be depending on anyone over there or wishing someone would do something, but rather just like, I call all my energy into myself now. You know, and you're not harming anyone. You're actually benefiting others around you because you're sorted. So that's a part of self-care that is worth highlighting, because we're at a cultural shift at the moment, and it is going to be a great time for our kids. And even though we're not there yet, we're creating it as we go along. So that's what I'd encourage people to do, is to take time now while you've got the freedom of time to listen to your heart and listen to your belly, listen to your intuition, and every day do something different so that you're not in a rut or anything. And learn to listen to the voices of people who've had experiences that you would like to have yourself, really.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Thank you so much. That's I'm going to take all that and listen back to it anyway a good few times. And I also want to I'll get the name of that lady that you mentioned, the spiritual midwife, as well.
Yeah, Ina May Gaskin.
Ina May
Gaskin.
Gaskin from Tennessee Farm.
That's it. Yeah, the farm in Tennessee. I even know someone from Ireland who went there to have a home birth.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that. Yeah, I'll include that. But that's wonderful. Yeah. And as you say, I think that's kind of where I'm coming to in my own practice. It's not about that I'm immediately going to be having a child, but it's just really the preparation time, and kind of that whole, I suppose the whole philosophy is really kind of coming home to the self, and making sure that I'm being able to mother my own self completely, to the point that I'm no longer, you know, I want to feel like full before I am pregnant, if that makes sense. It's like I want to feel that sense of that I'm not seeking from the outside to give me that sense of fullness and
Yeah.
validation.
Yeah, and you're doing it brilliantly in so many ways. And what I'd love for well, what happened to me was I was actually at a home birth.
Mm-hmm.
Someone else had faith in me that I could help at a home birth, and so you don't know until you come across these experiences that you'll be able for them. But you are, of course, you're able for them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can, surround yourself with people who've actually had home births. Talk to them. Oh, I'm not saying that you have to have a home birth, but when it's familiar to you, then well, again, hang out with people who are breastfeeding. God,
Mm-hmm.
they could even do with a little help from women who are. It's like what would have happened in a village if we weren't so isolated.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we would have just hung around people who,
Yeah.
and one of the things that I also think is great in advance, you might also prepare, is to have a sling handy.
Oh yeah.
There's some lovely ones where it's just a nice one that goes across here, and with one arm you can hold the baby, and the other arm you can do whatever you like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's such an adventure, and I wish you the best of luck with the whole experience. And
Thank you very much.
you're very generous in sharing your experience with others, and as it happens, we all get to share as well.
Exactly. So thank you very much for your time today.
Yeah, you're welcome, Ashley.
That's wonderful. Thank you.